Lieutenant Commander Jack Foster leaned toward his monitor, squinting at the strange signal pattern. For 6 years, he had studied alien communication theories at the Deep Space Listening Post on Europa. This signal was unlike anything he'd ever seen. "Hey, can you check this?" he called to his colleague. His fingers tapped rapidly across the keyboard, isolating the signal from the background noise of the universe. The pattern repeated, systematic, artificial, and definitely not random cosmic radiation. Jack's heart raced. After decades of humanity scanning the stars with no response, something had finally answered. But this wasn't a greeting. Even without translation, the urgent rhythm suggested warning. The base commander arrived within minutes of Jack's alert. "What have you got, Foster?" "It's coming from just beyond the Kuiper Belt, sir. Directed specifically at Earth. The signal structure suggests it's using mathematical sequences as a translation key." For 3 days, Jack barely left his station. He worked through meals, slept in short bursts at his desk, and emerged with bloodshot eyes and a preliminary translation that sent shivers through Earth's united government. The message was simple. They are coming. The scourge consumes all. You are the last unclaimed world in this sector. Prepare or perish. More details followed, fragmented and desperate. The sender described the scourge as relentless entities that had methodically consumed civilizations across the galaxy. The message contained coordinates, timeframes, and brief tactical information sent by a dying civilization. "How reliable is this translation, Commander?" asked General Rivera during the emergency briefing. "The mathematical basis is sound, sir. I'm confident in about 80% of the content," Jack replied, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. The room fell silent as the final decoded words appeared on the main screen. "You are the last unclaimed world. All others have fallen or fled. The galaxy's fate rests with humanity now." Satellite arrays across the solar system were redirected within hours. The first visual confirmation came 3 days later. Distant objects moving in formation, their path unmistakably headed toward the solar system. Jack found himself quickly transferred to Earth's Defense Command in Colorado. The underground facility hummed with activity as military and scientific personnel from around the world gathered to address the threat. "We have months, maybe less," Jack explained to the assembled leaders. "Based on their current velocity, they'll reach Neptune's orbit in about 7 weeks. Dr. Susan Reyes, Earth's leading xenobiologist, studied the limited visual data. These don't appear to be natural formations. See these structures? They're clearly artificial. Could this be a hoax?" someone suggested. "Or a misunderstanding?" Jack shook his head. The signal origin point is now gone. Completely dark. Whatever civilization sent the warning no longer exists. Outside the facility, life continued normally. The public hadn't been informed yet, a decision that divided the emergency council. Jack stood at the observation window late that night, looking up at the stars that had fascinated him since childhood. Somewhere among those distant points of light, death was approaching. The warning had been clear: civilizations far more advanced than Earth had already fallen. The sender's final transmission included something else, Jack told Dr. Reyes as she joined him. "They tracked the scourge across 27 star systems. No one has stopped them. Some tried to fight, others tried to hide or surrender. Nothing worked." "So why warn us at all?" she asked. Jack turned from the window. "Because we're different somehow." The message said we represent the final variable. Whatever that means, someone out there believed humanity might succeed where others failed. In his quarters that night, Jack studied the original signal again. Something about the pattern suggested not just warning, but hope, as if the sender, in their final moments, had passed a torch to Earth, the last stand for all life in their corner of the galaxy. General Olivia Martinez stood before the world's assembled military leaders in the underground command center. The large screen behind her showed the approaching Scourge fleet, now clearly visible near Neptune's orbit. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have 8 weeks before they reach Earth," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. Every nation must contribute. This is no longer about borders or old conflicts. This is about survival. Around the world, factories shifted to war production. Space launch facilities worked nonstop, sending up defensive satellites and retrofitting the small interplanetary fleet humanity had been developing for Mars colonization. Dr. Alan Nguyen walked into the command center carrying a tablet. The physicist had barely slept in days, but excitement brightened his tired eyes. "General, I need to show you something," he said, gesturing for Martinez to follow him to a side room. "We've been analyzing the energy signatures from the Scourge vessels. Look at this." He pulled up a series of scans. They're tracking specific radiation patterns, advanced fusion, quantum communications, artificial gravity, all the technologies that mark developed civilizations. Martinez studied the data. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying our relatively primitive technology might be our advantage," Alan explained. "They expect advanced defenses because that's what they've encountered before. But our nuclear fission power, chemical rockets, and radio communications are practically invisible to their sensors." This revelation changed their strategy entirely. Captain Samantha Wells, commander of Earth's Small Space Defense Force, immediately began retrofitting their ships. "We'll use old technology in new ways," she told her engineers. "Conventional explosives, electromagnetic pulses, even modified nuclear warheads. If they can't detect us coming, we have the element of surprise." Meanwhile, Jack Foster continued analyzing the alien warning message. In a small lab filled with computers, he worked alongside linguists and cryptographers. "There's more here," he muttered, isolating a previously untranslated section. Previous civilizations tried different approaches. Some attempted diplomacy, others immediate surrender. Some fled. None worked. He pushed back from his desk. "The Scourge doesn't negotiate or take prisoners. They harvest resources, including biological material." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "How did they defeat so many advanced civilizations?" asked one of the linguists. Jack pointed to a series of symbols. "Because each civilization fought alone. The sender believed our solar system might be the place where resistance finally succeeds because we're the last. There's nowhere left to run." On the moon, construction teams built massive railguns designed to launch kinetic projectiles. Mars Colony, with its small population of 300 scientists, converted their research facilities into an early warning station. Back on Earth, military bases became training grounds for space combat. Pilots learned to fight in zero gravity using simulators built in weeks. Dr. Nguyen's team made another breakthrough 3 weeks before the expected arrival of the main Scourge fleet. "They communicate using quantum entanglement," he explained to General Martinez. "Instantaneous signals across vast distances. But this system has a weakness. It can be disrupted by certain radiation patterns." "Can we exploit this?" Martinez asked. "We're developing jammers now. They won't work forever, but they might give us a temporary advantage." The preparations continued day and night. Earth cities dimmed their lights to preserve power for the defense systems. People around the world prepared shelters, stockpiled supplies, and trained for emergency responses. Captain Wells supervised the loading of her flagship, the U.S. Defiant. "We won't have the firepower to match them," she told her crew. "But we have something they don't expect: humanity's stubborn refusal to die without a fight." As the final days of preparation ticked away, Jack Foster discovered one last piece of the message: an image showing the path of destruction across the galaxy, with Earth marked as the end of the line. Below it, a single phrase: "Where the hunted become the hunters." Commander Leah Patterson stood on the bridge of the scout ship Valiant, watching through the viewscreen as the first Scourge vessels emerged from the darkness near Neptune. The alien ships looked like massive black spiders, with long appendages extending from central cores that pulsed with an eerie blue light. "Hold position," she ordered her crew of 20. "Maintain radio silence. Power systems at minimum." The small Earth fleet of 6 vessels waited in Neptune's shadow. Their mission was simple but dangerous: observe the enemy up close and engage only if absolutely necessary. They needed information more than early victories. "They're deploying something," reported Lieutenant Eric Dawson from the sensor station. "Small objects, hundreds of them, moving toward Neptune's moons." Through enhanced imagery, they watched as the objects attached to the surfaces of Neptune's moons. Within minutes, the natural satellites began to change color as the devices burrowed into them. "They're mining," Leah realized, "converting the moons into resources and fuel." The sight sent a chill through the bridge. The efficiency was terrifying. At this rate, Neptune's moons would be consumed within days. A sudden alarm blared. "Commander, they've detected us," called Eric. 3 vessels breaking away, heading toward our position. Leah made a split-second decision. "All ships, defensive pattern Delta. Prepare electromagnetic pulse weapons." The Earth vessels broke formation, engines flaring to life. The Scourge ships pursued, moving with unnatural speed and precision. They were smaller than the main vessels, but still twice the size of the human ships. "They're scanning us," reported the communications officer. "Our systems are being probed." Leah smiled grimly. "Deploy countermeasures now." Each Earth ship released clouds of metallic chaff, a centuries-old technique designed to confuse radar. Additionally, they'd broadcast garbage data on all frequencies, creating digital noise. The simple tactics seemed to confuse the advanced aliens. Their pursuit became erratic, as if they struggled to lock onto targets they couldn't properly track. "First blood to us," Leah said. "Weapons officer, prepare the EMP missiles." The Earth ships suddenly reversed course, charging directly at their pursuers. It was a move so foolhardy that the Scourge vessels seemed momentarily stunned into inaction. Fire. Each Earth ship launched 2 missiles. Not carrying explosives, these weapons instead generated massive electromagnetic pulses when detonated. As they exploded between the Scourge vessels, waves of disruptive energy washed over the alien ships. The effect was immediate and surprising. The blue glow inside the Scourge ships flickered and dimmed. Their movement became erratic. "They're vulnerable to EMP." Leah exclaimed. "All ships, target the central core of the nearest vessel." The Earth fleet fired conventional missiles at the wounded alien ship. The explosions tore through its weakened structure, causing a chain reaction that ripped it apart from inside. Victory was short-lived. The remaining Scourge ships quickly adapted, generating some kind of energy shield that deflected the next wave of EMP missiles. "Evasive maneuvers," Leah ordered as energy beams lanced out from the aliens. 2 Earth ships were hit directly. One exploded immediately. The other spun away, critically damaged. "We can't win this fight," Leah said. "All ships, prepare for emergency jump back to Mars perimeter." As they retreated, the Valiant sensors captured detailed readings of the destroyed Scourge ship. They also managed to retrieve a small fragment of the alien vessel. 3 days later, a battered Leah stood before the Earth Defense Council, her arm in a sling but her eyes bright with determination. "We've learned 2 critical things," she reported. "First, their technology is vulnerable to our primitive weapons, particularly electromagnetic disruption. Second, we recovered this." She nodded to an aide who projected an image of the captured technology. It contained organic components fused with mechanical parts. "The Scourge aren't just machines. They're partly biological, and based on the genetic material we found." She paused. "They were once something else, something that was transformed." Dr. Nguyen stepped forward. "The energy patterns suggest they're not just consuming worlds. They're running from something. Something they fear more than us." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just encountered one threat from the stars. They'd stumbled into the middle of a much larger conflict. Dr. Alan Nguyen carefully examined the salvaged Scourge fragment inside the high-security lab. His team worked around the clock, studying the strange combination of biological and mechanical components. "This is unlike anything we've ever seen," he said, adjusting his microscope. "The organic material has been completely restructured at the cellular level. Behind a thick glass barrier, the fragment pulsed with faint light, despite being separated from its host for days. Sensor readings showed it was still attempting to communicate with something. It's sending out quantum signals," said Dr. Laura Reed, the quantum physicist on his team. "Searching for its network." Alan's eyes widened with sudden understanding. "It's not just a weapon or a tool. It's part of a collective consciousness." He turned to face the others. "These aren't just invaders. They were victims first." The team worked through the night, comparing the biological components with known alien signal patterns. By morning, they had assembled a preliminary report that stunned the Defense Council. "The Scourge were once independent life forms," Alan explained to the assembled leaders. "Based on the genetic markers, they evolved on water worlds across several star systems. But something changed them, weaponized them, turned them into these harvesting machines." General Martinez leaned forward. "What changed them?" "We believe it's an ancient intelligence called the Architect. We found references to it in the quantum communication attempts from the fragment. It appears to be the controlling force behind the Scourge." While Alan's team continued their analysis, Major Daniel Garcia prepared for a dangerous mission. Intelligence had identified an abandoned structure on a distant Kuiper Belt object that showed energy signatures similar to the Scourge technology. "This could be an outpost or monitoring station," Garcia told his team of 12 Special Forces operators. "We go in quiet, gather what information we can, and get out before they know we were there." Their small stealth craft approached the icy body 3 days later. The structure was partially embedded in the ice, a metallic dome with spindly appendages stretching outward like roots. "No signs of active defense systems," reported Sergeant Kyle Wilson as they approached. "But there's definitely power running through that thing." Wearing special insulated suits, the team cut through an outer wall and entered the silent structure. Inside, they found curved corridors lined with strange, crystalline technology. "This place is ancient," Garcia whispered, his flashlight illuminating symbols etched into the walls. "Much older than the Scourge we encountered." In the central chamber, they discovered what appeared to be a data repository. Crystal columns rose from floor to ceiling, glowing with faint internal light. "Sir, I think this is some kind of record," said Lieutenant Zoe Baker, the team's xenotech specialist. She connected their translation device to one of the interfaces. Information flooded their screens, images and data spanning thousands of years. They watched in silent horror as the story unfolded. Civilizations rising across the galaxy, followed by the arrival of the Scourge who harvested them completely. Then, once the Scourge had consumed enough, something else arrived. Vast entities of pure energy that absorbed the Scourge themselves. "It's a cycle," Garcia realized. "The Architect creates the Scourge, points them at developing civilizations, lets them harvest the resources, and then harvests them in turn." Baker pointed to a recurring pattern in the data. "This has happened at least 7 times in our galaxy alone. Different species become the Scourge each cycle, but the pattern remains the same." As they prepared to leave with their devastating discovery, Garcia found one last piece of information, a star map showing harvested worlds. Earth was clearly marked, but with a symbol different from the others. "What does this symbol mean?" he asked Baker. She studied the translation. "It translates roughly as final variable or breaker of cycles." When Garcia's team returned to Earth, their findings confirmed what Dr. Nguyen had already begun to suspect. Humanity wasn't just facing the Scourge. They were facing an ancient system of cosmic predation that had existed for millions of years. "We're not just fighting for ourselves," Garcia told the Defense Council. "We're potentially fighting to break a cycle that has claimed countless civilizations before us." The main Scourge fleet approached Mars, their massive ships casting long shadows across the red planet. Earth's forward defense stations broadcast constant updates as the alien vessels began positioning themselves in a formation that would allow them to strike Earth within days. "They're moving faster than we anticipated," General Martinez told her staff. "Prepare to deploy our orbital defenses." The command center fell silent when an unexpected alert sounded. Lieutenant Harris at Communications looked up with confusion. "General, we're receiving a transmission. It's not from the Scourge, and it's not from any of our ships either." The message came through on frequencies Earth's ships weren't supposed to be using. When decoded, a voice spoke in carefully practiced English. "People of Earth, we have watched your resistance. We can help." The source was traced to the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Earth sent a small diplomatic vessel led by Representative Kira Jackson, a former ambassador with experience in high-stakes negotiations. 3 days later, Kira's ship approached what appeared to be an ordinary asteroid. As they drew closer, portions of the surface shimmered and disappeared, a sophisticated camouflage hiding an artificial structure. "We're being guided to a docking port," reported the pilot as lights appeared along the asteroid's surface. Inside, Kira and her team met the survivors. They weren't one species but many, representatives from a dozen different civilizations whose worlds had fallen to the Scourge. They had hidden among the debris of the solar system for months, watching humanity prepare its defense. Their leader was a tall, gray-skinned being who introduced himself as Verin. "We are the last of our kinds," he explained in halting English. "For generations, we have fled, hiding at the edges of star systems, watching the Scourge consume world after world." "Why haven't you fought back?" Kira asked. "We tried. We failed," said another alien with 4 arms and iridescent scales. "Our civilizations were too advanced, too dependent on the technologies the Scourge could easily detect and counter." "But you," Verin continued, "you fight differently. Your hybrid approach, primitive weapons with innovative tactics, has achieved more in one battle than our combined forces did in decades." The refugees offered critical intelligence, detailed scans of Scourge vessels, their tactical patterns, and weaknesses observed over years of hiding. "We can provide support from the outer system," Verin said. "Our ships are few but equipped with advanced cloaking technology." While this alliance formed in space, Lieutenant Nathan Rodriguez made a discovery on the Moon that would change everything. Leading a team reinforcing the lunar defense batteries, he noticed unusual readings from his equipment. "Something's interfering with our drilling," he reported to base. "There's a structure about 30 meters below the surface." Initial scans revealed an artificial chamber that predated human activity on the Moon by millions of years. Earth Command immediately dispatched Dr. Nguyen and a research team. What they found stunned them. A vast underground complex filled with dormant machinery of clearly alien design. "This is older than the Scourge," Dr. Nguyen said, examining symbols etched into the walls. "Much older." As they explored deeper, Nathan discovered a central control room. When he approached a crystalline console, it suddenly activated, responding to his presence. A holographic display appeared, showing the solar system and the approaching Scourge fleet. Then it shifted to show Earth and a vast network of defensive systems embedded throughout the Moon. "This is a defense platform," Nathan realized. "Someone built this to protect Earth specifically." Dr. Nguyen studied the activation sequences. These systems were deliberately hidden, designed to activate only when the Scourge returned to this system. The most shocking discovery came when they accessed the facility's records. The technology had been placed there by survivors of a previous civilization, one that had nearly broken the architect's cycle before being defeated. They knew another civilization would eventually arise on Earth, Dr. Nguyen said. "They left this for us, to give us a fighting chance when the cycle came around again." As the lunar team worked to activate the ancient defenses, Kira Jackson returned to Earth with the refugee allies. For the first time since detecting the Scourge, humanity felt a flicker of real hope. They were not facing this threat alone after all. Admiral William Carter paced the bridge of the orbital command station, watching as the holographic display showed the Scourge fleet approaching Earth. The final battle for humanity was about to begin. "All defense platforms report ready," said his executive officer. "Lunar batteries online. Earth surface-to-space missiles standing by." The admiral nodded grimly. "And our allies?" "Refugee ships are in position in the outer system. They're ready to strike from behind when the Scourge fully commits to Earth." Earth's makeshift defense fleet seemed painfully small against the massive alien armada. They had converted everything that could fly in space into weapons platforms, from scientific satellites to cargo ships retrofitted with missiles. "They're entering lunar orbit," announced the tactical officer. "First wave approaching." "Activate the lunar defense grid," Carter ordered. Beneath the moon's surface, the ancient weapons came to life. Energy beams shot from hidden emplacements, slicing through the first wave of Scourge scouts. The aliens had clearly not expected such powerful resistance from Earth's natural satellite. "They're adapting," warned the tactical officer, changing formation to avoid the lunar firing solutions. The main Scourge fleet split into 3 groups. One continued toward Earth, one turned to attack the moon directly, and the third hung back, coordinating the assault. "Launch our ships," Carter commanded. "All defensive squadrons engage according to plan." Across Earth, millions watched the sky as streaks of light marked humanity's ships rising to meet the invaders. Captain Samantha Wells led the main battle group, her voice calm over the communications system. "Remember your training," she told her pilots. "Use the EMP weapons first, then conventional strikes at their weak points. Stay mobile and unpredictable." The battle erupted in Earth's orbit. Scourge energy weapons created brilliant flashes visible from the ground. Earth's ships darted between the larger alien vessels, using their smaller size and greater maneuverability as advantages. In Colorado, Dr. Nguyen monitored energy readings from the battle. Something caught his attention. A new signature emerging from the Scourge coordination ship. "This is different," he told General Martinez. "It's not Scourge technology. The energy pattern is purer somehow." Martinez leaned closer to the screen. "Could this be the architect?" "I think it's beginning to take direct control," Nguyen replied. "Our resistance is stronger than expected. It's intervening." In space, the effect was immediate. The Scourge ships suddenly moved with greater coordination, their attacks becoming more precise and devastating. Earth's fleet began taking heavy losses. "We've lost the Roosevelt and the Beijing," reported Carter's tactical officer. 30% of our forces destroyed or disabled." On the lunar surface, the ancient defenses were being systematically targeted and destroyed. Nathan Rodriguez and his team worked desperately to keep the systems online, rerouting power as sections were destroyed. "We can't hold much longer," Nathan reported to command. "They're specifically targeting the control nodes." The situation grew dire as the first Scourge ships broke through to low Earth orbit. Cities around the world activated their ground-based defenses, filling the sky with missiles and energy weapons. But for every alien ship destroyed, more took its place. Then, from the darkness of space, the refugee allies struck. Their ships, invisible until the moment of attack, hit the rear of the Scourge formation with weapons specifically designed to disrupt their quantum communication network. "The Scourge coordination is faltering," Carter observed. "Press the attack." As the battle reached its peak, something unexpected happened. The largest Scourge vessel opened like a massive flower, revealing a pulsing core of pure energy. The fighting briefly paused as all eyes turned to this new development. "That's not Scourge technology," Dr. Nguyen said, his voice filled with awe and fear. "That's the architect revealing itself." A wave of energy expanded from the core, washing over Earth's defenses. Systems began failing all across the human fleet. The ancient lunar defenses went dark. Even ground installations reported critical failures. "It's shutting us down," Martins realized. "Somehow it's accessing and overriding all our systems simultaneously." As humanity's technological defenses failed, the architect finally spoke. not in words, but in concepts that appeared directly in the minds of everyone within range. I am balance, it communicated. I am cycle. I am necessity. Your resistance is unprecedented, but ultimately meaningless. All technological species must be harvested to prevent the greater collapse. Jack Foster stared at the screen showing Earth's failing defenses. The architect's energy wave had disabled most of their technology, but the ancient lunar communication array remained operational, shielded by technology from a previous cycle. We still have one weapon left, he said, pushing past technicians in the Lunar Command Center. Nathan Rodriguez looked up from his console. What are you thinking? The architect controls the Scourge through quantum communication, but the lunar array can broadcast on those same frequencies. Jack's fingers flew across the keyboard. We can send a message directly into their network. Outside, the battle for Earth continued. Admiral Carter coordinated what remained of Earth's defenses using backup systems and older technology that had proven surprisingly resistant to the architect's attack. Keep them engaged, he ordered. Every minute we survive is another minute to find a solution. Captain Samantha Wells led a desperate mission toward the architect's core vessel. Her small team piloted ships so old and simple they were barely affected by the energy wave. No computers, no advanced systems, just basic engines, manual controls, and determination. We need to get close enough to deploy the payload, she told her pilots. Simple physics, they can disable our technology, but they can't stop a physical object moving at high speed. Their payload was a collection of nuclear warheads, primitive but devastatingly effective when delivered directly to a target. On Earth's surface, General Olivia Martinez coordinated the ground defense as Scourge landing craft broke through the atmosphere. Soldiers armed with conventional weapons fought alongside civilians against the biomechanical invaders. We fight house by house if necessary, she told her commanders. Humanity does not surrender. Back on the moon, Jack finished his preparations. The message he crafted was not just words, but a carefully structured sequence designed to resonate with the partly organic components of the Scourge. We are humanity, his message began. We fight not just for ourselves, but for all life. This cycle ends with us. He broadcast the message using the full power of the lunar array, sending it directly into the quantum network that connected all Scourge units, and, by extension, to the architect itself. The effect was immediate and unexpected. Throughout the Scourge fleet, individual units paused as the message reached the organic components of their systems. The message continued, carrying emotional concepts that the purely mechanical parts of the Scourge could not filter. Freedom, individuality, resistance. It's working, Nathan said, watching as confusion spread through the enemy forces. The partially assimilated biologicals inside the Scourge are responding. In space, Captain Wells saw her opportunity. As the Scourge coordination faltered, she led her squadron directly toward the architect's core vessel. All ships, full speed, she ordered. This is our only chance. The architect recognized the threat and attempted to reassert control over its forces. But Jack's message had created too much disruption in the network. For the first time in millions of years, the carefully balanced system of harvest and control was breaking down. Wells' squadron reached their target. Deploy warheads now, she commanded. The simple nuclear devices separated from their carriers, propelled toward the architect's exposed energy core. On Earth, General Martinez watched the sky as a massive flash of light erupted in orbit. The architect's vessel seemed to fold in on itself, collapsing into a singularity that quickly vanished. Throughout the solar system, the Scourge vessels suddenly stopped attacking. Some drifted powerless. Others began moving erratically as the formerly enslaved biological components fought for control against their mechanical parts. The network is down, Jack reported from the lunar station. The architect's control system has been destroyed. In the days that followed, humanity began the difficult work of rebuilding. The refugee allies emerged from hiding to help, bringing their knowledge and technology to assist Earth's recovery. Most remarkably, some Scourge units, freed from the architect's control, began to regain aspects of their original identities. The biological components slowly reasserted themselves, creating new hybrid beings that sought peace rather than consumption. 1 month after the battle, representatives from Earth, the refugee species, and the newly freed Scourge met on neutral ground to form a galactic coalition. Their founding principle, inscribed on a simple monument, read, "Never again will intelligent life be harvested." The cycle is broken. Jack Foster stood at a viewport on the lunar base, looking out at Earth. Behind him, Nathan approached with news. 5 years after the defeat of the architect, Earth had transformed from a single-planet civilization to the center of a growing galactic community. The once barren moon now hosted ambassadors from 17 different species, including several former Scourge whose biological components had fully reasserted control. Jack Foster walked through the Memorial Garden, a peaceful dome where plants from dozens of worlds grew together. A small girl ran past him, laughing as her father called after her. The child was half human, half Lorian, one of the first hybrid children born in the new alliance. "Strange to think we almost lost all this," said a voice behind him. Jack turned to see Dr. Alan Gwyn, now head of the Interspecies Scientific Exchange. The years had added gray to his hair, but his eyes still held the same curiosity. "I was just thinking about that day," Jack admitted. "Sometimes I wake up wondering if we just got lucky." Alan shook his head. It wasn't luck. The architect had encountered countless civilizations before us, but it had never faced humans. We're stubborn in a way it couldn't understand. They strolled toward the observation platform overlooking the Earth. The planet showed signs of the battle. Some coastal cities remained dark at night, but life continued. More importantly, humanity had not turned inward after the victory. Instead, they had embraced their new role as defenders of galactic diversity. "The Coalition fleet detected another architect signal yesterday," Alan said quietly, "from the Andromeda Galaxy." Jack's expression grew serious. "Are we sure?" "The pattern matches. We think there might be multiple architects, each controlling a different galaxy." This was troubling news, but not unexpected. The freed Scourge had warned that the cycle likely extended beyond just the Milky Way. "The new defense network will be ready next month," Jack said. "And Captain Wells reports the joint fleet is at full strength. In orbit above Mars, that fleet conducted training exercises. Ships of human design flew alongside vessels built by their allies, all incorporating technology shared freely between species." Captain Wells, now Admiral Wells, commanded from the flagship New Horizon. "All units report ready," said her first officer, a tall being from the Teresian system. "Begin the drill," Samantha ordered. Scenario 5. Multiple incursion points. The fleet split into defensive formations, practicing tactics developed through the combined knowledge of all Coalition species. Each brought unique perspectives and abilities to the Alliance. Back on Earth, General Martinez stood before the United Earth Council, now expanded to include representatives from the Moon and Mars colonies. "The expansion of the early warning network is complete," she reported. "We can now detect quantum disturbances at the edge of our galaxy." Council Leader Patel nodded, "And the refugee resettlement program?" "Moving ahead of schedule. The Lorian homeworld is nearly habitable again, and 3 other species have begun rebuilding their civilizations on suitable planets. This was perhaps humanity's greatest achievement, not just defeating the architect, but helping those who had hidden for generations to reclaim their heritage and rebuild their homes." In deep space, beyond Neptune's orbit, Nathan Rodriguez supervised the construction of the Sentinel Array, a massive network of sensors and communication relays designed to warn of any future threats. "Power tests complete," reported his assistant, a former Scourge engineer whose body still showed signs of mechanical parts. Nathan watched as the main transmitter came online, its energy signature visible as a blue glow against the darkness of space. "Send the all-clear signal to Earth, then begin the full system diagnostic." The array represented the new philosophy of the Coalition: vigilance without fear, strength through cooperation. Unlike the isolated civilizations that had fallen in previous cycles, they would face any future threat together. On a small farm in what was once called Nebraska, a family gathered for dinner. Through their window, they could see new stars in the night sky. Not stars at all, but the lights of alien vessels bringing visitors and traders to Earth. Their youngest son pointed upward. "Dad, will I get to go up there someday?" His father smiled. "Further than you can imagine. The galaxy is open to us now." As night fell across Earth, billions looked toward the stars with hope rather than fear. The old cycle of predation and harvest had ended. A new cycle of exploration and cooperation had begun. And at its center stood humanity. No longer the final stand, but the first step toward a truly united galaxy.